Hey, Jen.
Hey, Kevin.
Oh, boy. I'm seeing more bottles than plants. What are we talking
This is
here?
the doctor section of the show.
Okay.
So we're talking about houseplants. You know, a lot of times people don't know what to do when certain types of bugs come in, right?
So pest control.
Yeah, there are solutions if you catch it early.
Yeah, okay.
So let's start talking with mealy bugs.
Let's.
They're like a white cottony bug, right? That usually found at the base of the stem. This one I know started in the new growth and it migrated up. And what they do is they pierce the plant and they suck out the sap, and then they create this substance called honeydew. And then after they have the honeydew, it's like this sticky substance that's left on the leaf, and that promotes something called sooty mold, which is black, like a black spotty that you would notice over the plant.
So a double whammy. So the
Yep.
sucking of the sap is no good, but then that black mold that can grow because of it, no good.
Correct.
Okay.
So what we have to do is attack the mealy bug. Don't worry about the mold because it's caused by the mealy bug.
How do we attack the mealy bug?
So first of all, try washing it off first with just water in the shower or sink. Spray it down, physically try to remove it.
Just wash them away.
Yep. If that doesn't work, take a mixture of rubbing alcohol and water, spray it down, and then see if you can wipe them off. Last resort, use neem oil. This is also a great product, and it's an organic product. It's just derived from a seed from a tree. Some people don't like to use it because it has a little bit of an odor, but
It's effective.
very effective.
And so when I hear oils, I think of it as sort of as not poisoning the bug, but kind of encapsulating it so it can't
It'll cover and suffocate it.
Suffocate it, okay. All right.
So that's that. And then for other plants, such as this succulent, the mealy bugs like to hide in little cracks and crevices. So take rubbing alcohol with a cotton pad, go like this, and then just physically pull them off.
And the alcohol's not going to hurt the plant.
It shouldn't, but do a test spot on the backside.
Because I like mine with a little bit of tonic, but I get it. All right. What's going on with this plant here?
This plant has spider mites.
Ooh.
So spider mites are a little bug that crawls around. You could see they start to create like a web, right? Spider, therefore the spider.
Yeah.
You could barely see them with the human eye, but they are visible. Kind of like if you look at that leaf.
So you can't necessarily see the bugs, but you
Yeah,
can see
but
the
I know
webs.
they're there because
Yeah.
of the webs, and then also because of spotting on the leaves. You have yellow and brown spots. It doesn't look like a healthy plant to you, does it?
Not at all. That one I can tell is not doing well.
Right.
And what causes spider mites to show up? Like, why are they going after a particular plant?
One reason why spider mites show up is very dry conditions. If your plant is dry all the time, it's perfect environment for spider mites. So,
So proper watering could be preventative.
yep, keep your soil moist and appropriate, but not soaking wet.
Right.
There's all the balance.
How do we take care of spider mites?
Well, start with spraying with a solution of dish soap and water. Dilute the dish soap, spray it on, and just like these guys over here, it suffocates it. So soapy water, spray it on, and if that doesn't work, go to the neem oil. Again, either one will work fine.
Very good. What are you trying to show us with this?
Here we have fungus gnat problem. So what's a fungus gnat? It starts with the larvae in the soil, and once they grow up to be an adult, they start to fly around.
Which you can see, right?
Right.
Because I do see gnats everywhere. In
I
fact,
saved
think
you
of-
one. This guy, that
You caught one?
yeah. So this is it's a sticky trap, right?
That's one of
So,
the remedies?
Yep.
Yeah.
You just stick it in, they fly, they hit, and then they get stuck.
Look at you, ninja warrior.
That could be used for any of these insects that fly around.
fly
a little
around.
sticky trap. Another thing, very important, is to kill the larvae inside of the soil. This is a natural granule that is a natural pesticide. So you mix it with water, apply it to the soil, and then it will kill the larvae.
That's interesting. Big words, says kills mosquito larvae.
Yes.
Kills mosquito larvae, but also the gnat larvae.
Yep, so if there's that outside, you could use that for treatment as well.
Cool. Okay. So that's how we get rid of them if they show up. How do we prevent them? Like stop them from ever even showing up?
That's a good question. So with the fungus gnats, this is caused by too much moisture in the soil.
Ooh.
Fungus gnats love a moist environment.
So don't overwater.
Don't overwater that. This one is the exact opposite. Spider mites like a dry environment. So
Don't underwater.
don't underwater. So
Little
know your
Goldilocks.
plants
Okay.
and know what soil to use and have a well-drained pot.
It's a pretty good rule of thumb, right? A healthy plant that's taken care of
Yep.
is going to prevent them from wanting to, the bugs from wanting to get there.
Yeah.
So keep them healthy, inspect them. Very nice. Awesome. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks for watching. This Old House has got a video for just about every home improvement project, so be sure to check out the others. And if you like what you see, click on the subscribe button to make sure that you get our newest videos right in your feed.